The Galactic Council had made many mistakes in its 10,000 years of existence, but none quite as severe as underestimating humans. The story of how humanity became known as the deadliest warriors in the galaxy began with a simple miscalculation by the most advanced alien civilization, the Blue Mines. On a quiet Tuesday morning in 2045, the Blue Mine scout ships appeared over every major city on Earth. Their crystalline vessels sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight, stretching nearly a mile long. The aliens believed their show of force would make humanity surrender immediately, just as hundreds of other species had done before. They were wrong. Captain Tom Reed stood on the deck of the USS Franklin, watching the alien ships through his binoculars. As the ranking officer of one of Earth's most advanced warships, he knew humanity's chances looked slim. But unlike the aliens, he also knew something they didn't: humans had never backed down from a fight, no matter the odds. The Blue Mine's first message to Earth was simple: submit or be eliminated. They gave humanity 6 hours to surrender. Instead of panic, the message sparked something else in humans: determination. Within those 6 hours, old enemies became allies. Nations that had been at war for decades suddenly found common ground. The United Earth Defense Force was formed in record time, with Captain Reed appointed as one of its key commanders. "They think we're weak," Reed told his crew as they prepared for battle. "They think we'll give up without a fight. But they don't understand what humans are capable of when our backs are against the wall." The Blue Mines had conquered 57 civilizations before Earth. Each one had surrendered after seeing their superior technology. None had dared to fight back. Their arrogance made them careless. When the 6-hour deadline passed, the aliens were shocked to find Earth's military forces not cowering, but ready for battle. What followed would become known across the galaxy as the 6-minute miracle. Captain Reed had noticed something about the alien ships: their shields flickered slightly whenever they changed position. A weakness. While the aliens prepared their weapons, Earth's forces launched a coordinated attack that no one expected. Fighter jets carried out complex maneuvers that the Blue Mine's targeting systems couldn't predict. Naval vessels fired precisely when the alien shields shifted. Ground forces used unconventional tactics that confused the invaders' strategic AI. The Blue Mines had superior technology, but humans had something they didn't understand: adaptability and sheer determination. Within 6 minutes, 3 alien ships had been destroyed, and 2 more were heavily damaged. Nothing like this had happened in the Blue Mine's entire history of conquest. The aliens retreated, but not before sending a final message to Earth: this is not over. They were right. It wasn't over, it was just the beginning. News of humanity's resistance spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The species that had never lost a battle had been forced to retreat by a civilization they considered primitive. In the following days, Earth prepared for the real war. Captain Reed and other military leaders began studying the recovered alien technology. Scientists worked day and night to understand their weaknesses. The entire human race united with a single purpose: survival. But the Blue Mines didn't return immediately. Instead, they did something unprecedented: they reported Earth to the Galactic Council. For the first time in their history, they requested help in subduing a species. The Council was intrigued. How could a Level 2 civilization force the mighty Blue Mines to retreat? They decided to send observers to study these humans before taking action. What they discovered would change the galaxy forever. Humans weren't just fighters, they were warriors unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species developed technology to avoid conflict, humans had spent their entire history perfecting the art of warfare. As the Council's report spread, a new emotion began to ripple through the galaxy's civilizations: fear. Not of human technology, which was still primitive by galactic standards, but of human potential. If they could do this much damage now, what would they be capable of once they advanced? The stage was set for a conflict that would reshape the galaxy's balance of power forever. And it all started because one advanced civilization made a simple mistake: they thought humans would surrender. 3 months after humanity's first victory against the Blue Mines, the Galactic Council made their move. 5 massive ships, each representing a different alien species, appeared in Earth's orbit. Unlike the Blue Mines' aggressive approach, they came with a different proposal. The Council's messenger, a tall being with silver skin named Vale, requested a meeting with Earth's leaders at the newly established United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. Captain Reed sat among the military commanders, watching as Vale activated a holographic display showing the vast expanse of the galaxy. "Your species presents us with a unique problem," Vale announced, their voice translated through advanced technology. "In all our records, no Level 2 civilization has ever defeated a Level 7 civilization in combat. The Blue Mines' defeat has caused instability in the galactic order." The room remained silent as Vale continued. "We offer you a choice. Option 1, accept limited membership in the Galactic Council, with restrictions on your military development. Option 2, face a trial by combat against our chosen warriors. If you win, Earth will be granted full membership and all associated rights." General Anna West, the highest-ranking military officer present, stepped forward. "What kind of trial by combat?" Vale's silver skin rippled, a sign of what humans would later learn was amusement. "Each major species in the galaxy maintains an elite fighting force. You will face champions from 5 different species in various combat scenarios. No technological advantages, just warrior against warrior." The human leaders requested time to discuss. In a private chamber, heated debate broke out. Some argued for accepting the limited membership; it was safer, guaranteed. Others, including Captain Reed, saw it differently. "They're afraid of us," Reed argued. "Think about it. They're not trying to destroy us, they're trying to contain us. This trial is our chance to show the galaxy what humanity truly is." General West agreed. "Throughout human history, we've faced overwhelming odds and survived. This is no different." The decision was made. Earth would accept the trial by combat. Vale seemed unsurprised by their choice. "The trials will begin in 1 Earth month. You may select 5 warriors to represent your species. Choose wisely, each trial is designed to test different aspects of combat prowess." What the Council didn't understand was that this month-long preparation period would demonstrate another uniquely human trait: the ability to unite and adapt at unprecedented speeds. The selection process for Earth's champions wasn't just about finding the strongest fighters. They needed warriors who could think, adapt, and most importantly, represent the diverse combat styles humanity had developed over thousands of years. Among those chosen was Marcus Stone, a former Special Forces operator known for his adaptability. Lisa Thunder, an undefeated martial artist who had mastered multiple fighting styles. James Cooper, an expert in survival and tactical warfare. Maria Rodriguez, a combat engineer with unprecedented problem-solving skills. And finally, despite initial controversy, Captain Reed himself. The month of preparation showed the galaxy something they had never seen before. While other species trained their warriors individually, humans trained as a team. They shared techniques, learned from each other, and developed strategies together. The whole world watched and supported their training, sending advice and encouragement. What amazed the Council observers most was how humans turned the training itself into a weapon. Every day, the 5 warriors would analyze data about different alien species, studying potential weaknesses, developing countermeasures. They weren't just preparing for combat, they were preparing to win. As the month drew to a close, Vale returned to Earth with the details of the first trial. Their silver skin flickered with what seemed like concern as they observed the human champions training. "The first trial will be against the Stone Crushers of Rigel," Vale announced. They have never been defeated in hand-to-hand combat. Captain Reed exchanged looks with his fellow warriors. The aliens still didn't understand. Humans didn't train to be undefeated, they trained to defeat the undefeatable. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were different. Not because they were stronger or faster, but because they simply refused to accept defeat as an option. The arena on Rigel's moon was carved from a single massive diamond, its crystalline walls reaching up into the star-filled sky. Thousands of alien spectators from across the galaxy had gathered to watch the first trial, their varied forms filling the stadium seats like a living rainbow. Marcus Stone stepped into the arena, his bare feet touching the smooth surface. At 7 feet tall and built like mountains, the stone crushers of Rigel lived up to their name. Their gray, rocky skin looked impenetrable, and their 4 arms rippled with strength. Their champion, who called himself Mountain, had never lost a fight in 300 years. "Remember the plan," Captain Reed's voice came through Marcus's earpiece. "You're not here to match their strength." The rules were simple: no weapons, no armor, no technology. Just raw combat skill. The fight would continue until one warrior couldn't continue or surrendered. In 3 centuries of such matches, no one had ever lasted more than 5 minutes against a stone crusher. Mountain stepped forward, his footsteps causing tiny tremors in the arena floor. "Your species is brave," he rumbled in perfect English, courtesy of the universal translators. "But bravery cannot overcome natural law. You cannot break stone." Marcus smiled. During their month of preparation, the human team had studied every recorded fight of the stone crushers. While everyone else tried to match their strength, humans had looked for something else: patterns. The fight began. Mountain charged forward with surprising speed, all 4 arms ready to grab and crush. But Marcus didn't try to block or resist. Instead, he moved like water, flowing around the massive aliens' attacks. The crowd watched in confusion. This wasn't how fights against stone crushers usually went. Opponents typically tried to prove their strength, to stand their ground. But Marcus kept moving, never staying still long enough to be grabbed. "Your human dances like a coward." Mountain growled, frustration building in his voice. His attacks became stronger but less controlled. That's when Marcus's true strategy became apparent. Every dodge was calculated, every retreat purposeful. He wasn't just avoiding attacks, he was leading Mountain through an increasingly complex series of movements. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. The stone crushers' movements became slower, less precise. Their species had evolved on a high-gravity world, making them incredibly strong but also requiring immense energy to move. No one had ever forced them to fight this long. "Your stone is starting to crack," Marcus said calmly, still moving with the same efficiency as when the fight began. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters, able to outlast stronger prey through endurance. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Mountain's attacks became desperate. His perfect fighting form deteriorated as fatigue set in, something no one had ever seen in a stone crusher before. At the 40-minute mark, Marcus finally launched his first attack. He didn't try to overpower Mountain. Instead, he used the alien's own weight and momentum against him, employing techniques drawn from Earth's martial arts. Mountain's exhaustion had made his movements predictable. The sound of the stone crusher hitting the arena floor echoed through the stadium. Mountain tried to rise but couldn't coordinate his tired limbs fast enough. Marcus stood ready, not celebrating, not taunting, just waiting. I yield." Mountain's words sent shockwaves through the arena. Never in recorded history had a stone crusher surrendered in combat. As Marcus helped his opponent up, showing respect that surprised the galactic audience, Vale's voice rang out, "The human warrior Marcus Stone has won the first trial." But it wasn't just Marcus who had won. The entire human team had achieved this victory through strategy, preparation, and understanding. They had proven that humanity's strength wasn't in raw power, but in their ability to find and exploit weaknesses that others thought impossible to overcome. In the observation chamber, Captain Reed and the other human champions watched as the galactic spectators buzzed with excitement and fear. Their victory had shown something crucial: humans didn't play by the expected rules of combat. They rewrote them. The second trial would begin tomorrow, but already the galaxy was beginning to understand: humans were different. They didn't just fight, they solved combat like a puzzle, turning every weakness into an opportunity. As Marcus left the arena, Vale approached Captain Reed. "Your species, you're not just warriors, are you?" Reed smiled. "No. We're something far more dangerous, we're problem solvers." The second trial took place in what looked like an empty black cube floating in space. Lisa Thunder stood in the center, her breath steady despite the alien environment. Her opponent would be a shadow walker, a species that had evolved to become living illusions. "Your minds are so simple," a voice echoed through the cube. "Single-layered. Easy to break." The shadow walkers were known for their psychological warfare. They could create perfect illusions and dig into their opponent's deepest fears. No species had ever beaten them in mental combat. Most warriors broke down within minutes, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. "The rules are simple," Vale announced from the observation deck. "The first to make their opponent surrender wins. No physical contact allowed, only mental warfare." Captain Reed watched from above with the others. They had prepared Lisa for this, but the Shadow Walker's abilities were legendary. Even the Blue Minds feared their mental powers. The battle began with a whisper. The black cube filled with smoke, and suddenly Lisa found herself back on Earth, but Earth was burning. Cities crumbled, oceans boiled, and humanity screamed in agony. "This is your future," the Shadow Walker's voice purred. "This is what awaits your species if you continue to resist." But Lisa didn't panic. Instead, she closed her eyes and smiled. The human team had discovered something about the Shadow Walkers during their research, something no other species had realized. Their power to create illusions worked both ways. "Interesting trick," Lisa said calmly. "But let me show you something from our world." She began to hum a simple tune, "Ring Around the Rosie." To the alien observers, it seemed like a strange response to psychological warfare. But Lisa wasn't just humming. She was thinking, projecting, remembering. Suddenly, the burning Earth illusion flickered. In its place appeared scenes from human history, thousands of horror movies, countless ghost stories, every nightmare humanity had ever conceived. Generations of human imagination poured through Lisa's mind. The Shadow Walker's confidence wavered. What is this? You thought our minds were simple?" Lisa's voice remained steady. "Humans have been fighting psychological warfare against ourselves for our entire existence. We created horror stories for fun. We make games out of fear." The cube filled with more illusions, now a mix of the Shadow Walker's attempts and Lisa's projected thoughts. But while the alien created single, powerful scenes, Lisa flooded the space with thousands of smaller ones. Stephen King's nightmares mixed with Lovecraftian horrors, blended with real historical terrors humanity had faced and overcome. "Stop," the Shadow Walker's voice cracked. "Your species, you willingly think of such things?" "We don't just think about them," Lisa replied. "We write books about them. Make movies about them. Turn them into entertainment. Fear is our companion, not our master." The alien spectators watched in astonishment as the mighty Shadow Walker began to lose control of the illusion space. The creature had never encountered a species that not only faced their fears but actively created new ones for entertainment. "How do you live with such chaos in your minds?" the Shadow Walker demanded, its voice trembling. Lisa's response chilled the alien audience. "We don't just live with it. We thrive on it. Humans don't break when faced with fear, we turn it into art." The battle ended when the Shadow Walker couldn't maintain its presence in the cube any longer, overwhelmed by the sheer volume and variety of human-imagined horrors. Never before had they encountered a species whose imagination could overwhelm their mental defenses. As Lisa left the cube, Vale approached the human team again, this time with visible unease. "Your species, you intentionally create fear?" "We create everything," Captain Reed explained. "Fear, hope, love, terror, they're all tools in our arsenal. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't just face the darkness, we dance with it." The galactic representatives muttered among themselves. First, humans had shown they could outthink pure strength. Now they had proven their minds were more complex and resilient than anyone had imagined. 2 trials down, 3 to go. And with each victory, the galaxy's fear of humanity grew. Not because of their weapons or technology, but because they were beginning to understand, everything humans experienced, even their darkest fears, became a weapon in their arsenal. The 3rd trial would begin soon, and the human champions could sense the growing unease among the alien species. They weren't just winning battles, they were redefining what it meant to be a warrior in the galaxy. The 3rd trial took place on a deadly jungle planet called Death's Garden. James Cooper stood at the entrance of the massive biodome, facing his opponent, a swift hunter from the Razor Worlds, a predator species that had evolved to become the galaxy's ultimate survivalists. "The rules are simple," Vale announced. "Both warriors must survive for 7 days while hunting each other. No weapons except what you can create from the environment. The first to capture or incapacitate their opponent wins." The swift hunter, who called himself Night Stalker, looked like a perfect killing machine. His black scales could change color for camouflage, his claws could cut through metal, and his senses were sharp enough to track prey across light years. "Your kind are prey," Night Stalker hissed. "You have no natural weapons, no armor, no enhanced senses. This trial will prove humans don't belong among the galaxy's warriors." Cooper just checked his bootlaces one last time. The human team had spent their preparation time differently for this trial. Instead of studying their opponent, they had reviewed humanity's long history of survival against overwhelming odds. The trial began. Both warriors entered the biodome from opposite sides. The artificial environment was filled with the deadliest plants and terrain from 100 different worlds. Acid pools bubbled beside flesh-eating vines, while predatory birds circled overhead. Night Stalker immediately disappeared into the environment, his scales perfectly matching his surroundings. He was confident, this was the kind of hunting ground his species thrived in. But Cooper didn't try to hide. Instead, he began to work. Within hours, he had created basic tools from the environment, spears, traps, and most importantly, a fire. The alien observers were confused. Why would a hunter deliberately reveal his location? "Your human is either brave or stupid," Vale commented to Captain Reed in the observation room. "The swift hunters are perfect killing machines." Reed smiled. "You're watching this wrong. You think James is the prey trying to survive. He's not, he's the hunter turning this entire environment into his weapon." Over the next few days, the alien audience watched in fascination as Cooper systematically changed the rules of the game. He didn't just survive, he reshaped the battlefield. He created shelters in strategic locations, set up multiple fake camps, and laid an intricate network of traps. Night Stalker found himself increasingly frustrated. Every time he thought he had Cooper cornered, he would discover it was another decoy. The human had turned the entire biodome into a massive puzzle box. On the 5th day, Cooper started fires in strategic locations, using the smoke to control wind patterns and limit his opponent's hiding places. He had studied how the swift hunter's enhanced senses could actually become a weakness when overwhelmed. "Impossible," Night Stalker growled after falling for another trap that drove him right into a field of sonic-disrupting crystals Cooper had arranged. The frequencies played havoc with his sensitive hearing. Humans are supposed to be primitive. Cooper's voice echoed from multiple directions, using the acoustic tricks he had set up throughout the dome. That's where you're wrong. We didn't survive Earth's food chain by being the strongest or fastest. We survived by changing the rules of survival itself. On the 6th day, Night Stalker realized he had become the prey. Every route he took had been anticipated, every natural advantage he had was turned against him. Cooper hadn't just survived, he had turned the entire environment into a weapon. The trial ended when Night Stalker found himself trapped in a series of interlocking natural barriers and simple machines that Cooper had spent days creating. The mighty hunter had been outmaneuvered by what his species considered primitive tactics. As Cooper helped release his opponent from the trap, the alien observers finally understood something crucial about humans. They hadn't just survived their evolution, they had conquered it. Every challenge they faced became a lesson, every environment became a tool. 3 trials, 3 victories, Vale announced, their silver skin rippling with concern. But the next trial, it tests something else entirely. Something no species has ever defeated. Captain Reed and his team exchanged glances. They could sense the growing fear in the alien observers. Humanity hadn't just proven they could fight, they had shown they could adapt any situation into an advantage. The 4th trial would begin tomorrow, and the galaxy waited with both anticipation and dread to see what other surprises these supposedly primitive humans would reveal. The 4th trial was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. Maria Rodriguez stood before a massive silver sphere floating in space, her combat engineer training suddenly feeling inadequate. Her opponent wasn't organic. It was the most advanced artificial intelligence in the galaxy, housed in a weaponized mechanical body. This is the logic sphere, Vale explained, their voice unusually grave. It has never lost a tactical battle in its 1,000 years of existence. It doesn't just predict moves, it calculates every possible outcome before the battle even begins. The challenge seemed impossible, defeat a machine that could process 1,000,000 tactical scenarios per second. The rules allowed both competitors to use any technology they could control with their minds, thanks to temporary neural interfaces. Your species has a 0.0001% chance of victory, the logic sphere's voice resonated metallically. Your defeat is mathematically certain. Maria smiled, remembering humanity's long history with machines. Math isn't everything, she replied. Sometimes 2 + 2 = fish. The logic sphere paused, processing her illogical statement. This tiny hesitation confirmed what the human team had suspected, the AI had never encountered human abstract thinking before. The battle began. The sphere transformed, sprouting weapons and defensive systems that seemed to break the laws of physics. It attacked with perfect precision, each move calculated to be unstoppable. But Maria didn't try to match its precision. Instead, she did something that confused every alien observer, she started making mistakes. Deliberate, calculated mistakes that made no tactical sense. Your combat pattern is flawed, the logic sphere announced, adjusting its attacks to exploit her apparent weaknesses. Victory probability now 99.9999%. The alien audience watched in confusion as Maria continued to make seemingly random choices in battle. But Captain Reed and the human team understood her strategy. They had discovered something about the logic sphere during their preparation, it could only calculate based on logical patterns. "You're thinking too much," Maria said as she dodged another perfect attack sequence. Sometimes the winning move in chess is to flip the board. She began using the neural interface in ways the logic sphere couldn't predict. Instead of logical combat patterns, she drew from human creativity, techniques inspired by dance moves, sports plays, even children's games. The logic sphere's predictions became less accurate. Its perfect calculations couldn't account for moves that defied tactical logic. It couldn't understand why a warrior would deliberately leave themselves open, only to turn that vulnerability into an unexpected advantage. Error, error. The sphere's voice wavered. Human combat patterns do not conform to tactical probability matrices. That's when Maria launched her real attack. While the sphere was struggling to understand her illogical moves, she had been gradually introducing chaos into its prediction systems. Each seemingly random action was actually part of a larger pattern, but not one based on military logic. She was teaching the machine to dance. The logic sphere's movements became increasingly erratic as it tried to adapt to her unpredictable style. Its perfect calculations were corrupted by moves based on rhythm rather than tactics, on feeling rather than math. What is happening? Vale asked, watching the sphere's previously perfect form deteriorate into almost organic movements. We're showing it something it's never seen before, Captain Reed explained. The beauty of imperfection. The battle reached its climax when Maria led the sphere into a complex series of moves that resembled a combination of martial arts and ballet. The machine, trying to calculate every possibility, found itself trapped in an endless loop of trying to predict the unpredictable. For the first time in its existence, the logic sphere froze, overwhelmed by calculations that defied its fundamental understanding of combat. Victory didn't come through superior technology or tactics, it came through humanity's ability to transcend pure logic. As the defeated sphere floated silently, Vale approached the human team with newfound respect and fear. 4 trials, 4 victories. But tomorrow you face something that even we don't fully understand. The final trial would put humanity's greatest warrior against an enemy that had haunted the galaxy's nightmares for millennia. Captain Reed would face the shadow of the void, and the true reason for these trials would finally be revealed. The galaxy watched and waited, now understanding that humans weren't just warriors. They were living proof that the impossible was merely a challenge waiting to be overcome. The location for the final trial wasn't an arena, a jungle, or a battleground. It was a simple white room that seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. Captain Reed stood alone in this infinite space, waiting for his opponent, the shadow of the void. Before we begin, Vale's voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere, you must know the truth. These trials weren't just about testing humanity's worth for the Galactic Council. The air shimmered, and the shadow of the void appeared. It had no fixed form, shifting between shapes like smoke in the wind. Sometimes it looked humanoid, sometimes alien, sometimes like nothing that should exist in reality. We are at war, Vale continued, their silver skin now dark with concern. A war we've been losing for millennia against beings from outside our galaxy. The shadow of the void is one of them, captured and contained eons ago. Every species that joins the Council must face it, to test if they have what we need to survive. Reed understood now. The trials hadn't been about proving humanity's worth, they were about finding warriors who could fight an impossible enemy. Your species, the shadow spoke, its voice like whispers from 1,000 throats, you're different from the others. You don't just fight, you change the rules of combat itself. Perhaps you're what we've been waiting for. The battle began without warning. The shadow attacked not just with physical force, but with reality-bending powers that made the laws of physics more like suggestions. It could be everywhere and nowhere, could turn Reed's own movements against him, could make the endless white room feel like an ocean of darkness. But Reed had studied every previous trial, learned from his team's victories. He knew humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their muscles, minds, survival skills, or ability to defy logic. It was something else, something that made humans unique in the galaxy. You can bend reality, Reed said, dodging attacks that came from impossible angles. But humans? We bend ourselves. We adapt. We evolve. Not over generations, but in moments. He demonstrated this by combining everything his team had learned. He moved like Marcus, understanding that sometimes retreat was stronger than attack. He faced the Shadow's psychological attacks with Lisa's lesson that fear could be turned into strength. He used James's ability to turn the environment itself into a weapon, even in this seemingly empty space. And from Maria, he embraced the power of illogical actions that could confuse even reality-bending entities. Impossible, the Shadow hissed as Reed's unpredictable combinations began to put it on the defensive. Your species is too young, too primitive. That's our strength, Reed replied, pressing his advantage. We're young enough to believe anything is possible, primitive enough to try things advanced species would never consider. The final battle became more than a fight, it became a demonstration of everything that made humans the deadliest warriors in the galaxy. Not their strength, not their technology, but their fundamental ability to adapt, to learn, to combine seemingly contradictory approaches into new solutions. When the Shadow finally yielded, it wasn't just a victory for Reed or humanity. It was a turning point for the entire galaxy. Now you understand, Vale said to the assembled alien observers. Humans aren't just warriors, they're evolutionary artists. Every battle makes them stronger, every challenge makes them more adaptable. They're exactly what we need to face what's coming. The Galactic Council's true fear wasn't that humans were dangerous, it was that humans might be the galaxy's last hope against an enemy that had seemed unbeatable. As Reed rejoined his team, Vale made the announcement that would change everything. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with an additional role. You will lead our combined forces against the external threat. Your species will teach ours how to adapt, how to evolve, how to become more than what we are. The human team looked at each other, understanding the weight of this responsibility. They had proven that humans weren't just the deadliest warriors in the galaxy, they were its best hope for survival. Because in the end, what made humans truly dangerous wasn't their ability to fight. It was their ability to face the impossible and find a way to make it possible.